Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
Ryan Abraham, USC football. And what a day it was yesterday with the firing of Clay Helton. And Ryan Abraham covers the Trojans like a blanket. They have had the AD Mike Bohn on the show. Obviously a list of the candidates, a lot of speculation. This is a guy that will know quite a bit. Ryan Abraham joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Ryan, it appeared just from our perspective, the chat room and all the various calls or texts that we received from around the country, USC fans were thrilled yesterday. I hate that because you hate to see someone fired, but it was time, obviously. What has been? Has it been overwhelmingly a positive thing?
It definitely has. I mean, this has been a long time coming, and it's not, I don't blame Clay Helton. He is a really nice guy. He's a genuine person. He was just hired for a job that he really wasn't qualified for. And then you had the bungling administration that extended him when he didn't deserve an extension, and it made it really impossible for the new athletic director, Mike Bohn, to come in and fire him right away like he had planned. So this was a long time coming, and they built a lot of infrastructure and resources around the football program trying to help Clay Helton, and they knew that he needed to make some sort of big run this year for him to keep his job. But losing to Stanford in the way they did in a Coliseum Saturday night that was really excited, they did a lot, and they turned the lights out. The students were into it, and then he just fell flat on their face, and they were booing Clay Helton at halftime. And I think the administration knew that no way they were going to get people in the Coliseum the rest of the year if Clay Helton, who would obviously be a dead man walking, would come back. So they pulled it. They pulled the trigger, made the move. Second game of the season, which is kind of strange, but for USC, there's always something going on at USC. You can't ever be surprised.
Ryan, Mike Bohn is the first real athletic director they've had in a while, and I'm not trying to disparage Pat Hayden or Mike Garrett or Lynn Swann as professionals in their other life, but they're the ex-player types that come in and not really an athletic director. Mike Bohn is a real athletic director. How much has that changed before even the firing of Clay Helton, the direction of the athletic department at USC?
Yeah, you nailed it. And you're probably even too nice. I mean, I don't know if Lynn Swann was even good in his professional career, but Swann and Hayden were probably they were the two worst athletic directors in USC history. And it's just the stuff that they did really put the program back. And you're right. They needed a real athletic director, someone that would come from the outside that knows how college football works and college athletics work. Because it was just kind of an internal thing for 20, 30 years there at USC. It was just strange. So it was good. I think he's fixed a lot of the problems that were around the program. There was certainly a lot of low-hanging fruit. And now it's, the main job, as you know, is going to be to hire the head football coach. So I think it's been great. He's hit a lot of singles, I think. He's done a lot of good things around the program, but this is where you can hit the home run, where you can make that football hire. The important thing was making a change, which they've done, and now who do you get? That's what everyone's going to be looking for. But there's a lot more optimism with Mike Bohn as the athletic director than Lynn Swann or Pat Hayden ever had.
Right, it's got to be a weird spot for the players because, I'm sure a lot of them love Clay Helton. We've heard so much about what a nice guy he is, but at the same time, there was so much chatter that they knew going in that they had to win to not only be winners, but also to preserve his job. So what has been the reaction from the USC player side of things as best you understand it?
Yeah, just from seeing, I'm actually on my way in the car to practice right now. We're going to get to talk to some of the players and the new interim head coach, Dante Williams. The good thing, Dante Williams is an extremely popular coach on the staff. He's recruited just about everyone there. If it wasn't at USC, he recruited these guys when he was up at Oregon. He's been multiple time Pac-12 recruiter of the year. Someone that really relates to the players. So I think there was definitely some tears in that locker room with Clay Helton no longer being around. But I think they knew that you have to win. It's sort of like, your favorite uncle that's moving away. Is it going to be the best thing for the football program? Yes, but they're still going to miss them. I think it's okay to be sad, but then understand that this was the right move for the football program to go forward. So, yeah, I think there's some sadness there, but for the most part, I think the players knew, he just wasn't getting the job done.
If I threw out the names, and I know that it's way early, but you see names, Oregon's Mario Cristobal coming off the huge win against Ohio State. James Franklin, who today said he would address it with his leadership council. He hates distractions. Luke Fickell, because of the connection to your AD, Matt Campbell, even though Fickell's kind of denied it. Of course, coaches do that, and most of the time, you don't know if you can trust them or not. That's not to say they're not interested. but they can pretty much almost get whoever they want. Is that correct?
I don't know about that. I mean, but there is definitely a hierarchy in college football, and they would be above even a program like Oregon. It doesn't matter that Oregon had more success recently; it's still the brand. You see these college football brands; it's there. And I don't know if USC would go after Mario Cristobal. There's been some bad blood between USC and Oregon lately, but I guess that's one way to deliver a knockout blow to your opponent if you wanted to do that. I mean, Luke Fickell's the obvious one because Mike Bones already hired him once. He was the one that brought him in when he was at the University of Cincinnati. He's had great success there. Would you be able to lure him out of Ohio, where he's coached and knows everybody there in Ohio football? But like a James Franklin would certainly be an interesting one. There's a lot of interesting names at the top, but I think the one thing you have to do if you're doing this search is actually talk to these people. Before USC just hired someone that was familiar, that was around them. They wouldn't interview people. Now go out there and, is Matt Campbell and James Franklin? Maybe they're not, but it's worth a shot. And I think they have the resources that if you are interested and they're sort of on the fence, you can kind of throw everything at the kitchen sink at them and figure out if they want to come to Los Angeles or not.
What's been the biggest problem with their coach hiring? I mean, outside of athletic directors, obviously, but outside of Pete Carroll, they haven't hit home runs in the last 20, 30 years.
No, you got to look to the top. And it's really been that they've had this athletic department that just wanted to kind of keep control of things. And it wasn't even whoever the athletic directors were. Pete Carroll ran the department. And that's, if you're Nick Saban, if you're Dabo Swinney, like the athletic director isn't telling you, hey, you can't spend money on this resource. Like they're running the show. And Pete Carroll did that because he was winning. And I think the athletic department was like, we want to win, but we don't want the football coach having this much power. Let's try to get people that are just going to be happy to be there, and we'll give them a chance, and we're not really going to go out of our family. They know how we do things. And that's just a recipe for disaster. You have to go outside, bring someone in that's proven, that knows what they're doing. And that they just hadn't done that for the last few coaching hires. So even when they screwed up the Ed Orgeron thing, it would have been better to keep Ed Orgeron than to bring in Steve Sarkisian, who lasted a year and a half at USC before he flamed out. So this is a real chance. And I think USC fans have been waiting for some kind of home run hire. So I think it puts some pressure on Mike Bowen, but that's why he gets paid the big bucks. If you're going to be the athletic director of a place like this, the main thing you got to do is hire a football coach.
Well, Orgeron might be available here one of these days pretty soon, obviously. And it will. The Lane Kiffin thing, we know how that ended. There's no possibility that they would they talk to him?
Other administrations at USC probably would have. I mean, they brought John Robinson back before. Right. I think in this case, you can't do it. I think the athletic department has heard everything, all the complaints from the USC fans about you need to fire this guy, blah, blah, blah. I don't think they could go there and hire someone that they've already flamed out on. They need to start fresh and bring someone new. And I think Kiffin's in a good spot at Ole Miss. Stark's in a good spot at Texas right now. So, I don't think it would even be possible to get those retreads back. But, that's USC fans are sort of conditioned to that because that's what they've seen for the last 15 years.
What about recruiting? Obviously, that's one of the things that's slipped, although they can usually get pretty much what they want. But they've lost some quarterbacks, have left California to go way east. They haven't been able to get quite the same. What about those who have already committed for the class of 2022? What was their reaction to this?
Yeah, so they got a couple 5-star commits right now and some high 4-stars, and they were all positive, as far as going forward. Dante Williams being the interim head coach certainly helps because he's the best recruiter on the staff, and he's the one that has the best relationships with all of these players. But the main thing is going to be, who do you hire as the next head coach? That's when you're going to find out if these players like it or not. There's going to be guys on the team that transfer out because they love Clay Helton or whatever assistant coach they were close with got fired. But there's going to be guys that are happy because they didn't really like the assistant coach and they're buried on the depth chart and they didn't think they should be. So there's always going to be attrition, especially with the transfer portal. But for recruiting, it's going to really come down to who they hire as a head coach. And the early signing period in December now really makes this hire important. And you have to do it faster than you normally would. Before you could wait. You hire a coach in late December now, like you're already behind one recruiting class. So getting this extra time in, I think, is going to help whoever the next head coach is to hit the recruiting trail hard.
I know that being a nice guy doesn't always mean much, but the fact Clay Helton, everyone you hear, seems to be a nice guy. I know that the offensive coordinator, Graham Harrell, liked him quite a bit. That's the guy that hired him. What is right now the status of Graham Harrell, at least for now?
Yeah, it's funny. His name would have come up as being the interim head coach. People have talked about that before, and he wasn't. And so I think part of the problem is that just the offense has not been as effective. It was good in year one, and it just hasn't been for years. And so they're not really sure. And maybe there was some, you had a lot of offensive coaches there. Maybe everyone was meddling in the offense. Clay Helton was an offensive coach. It's hard to say. It might look different now with Dante Williams as the head coach, but the offense just wasn't putting up points. So I think there was a lot of talk about Graham Harrell getting head coaching jobs and other things. We haven't heard much of that lately. And if you're not performing as your unit, then I think that's the reason why. So this might be a great opportunity for Graham Harrell too, if there was anything that was sort of throttling his offense, with Clay Helton being there, maybe Dante Williams takes that off and lets him do whatever he wants. And they score a bunch of points. So it'll be an interesting opportunity these last 10 games for Graham Harrell as well.
Ryan, how many years does Graham have left on his contract? Do you know?
I don't know that. I don't think it was a super long-term deal. But, usually they're only a year or two along.
Right.
So I don't think having something like, a contract for an offensive coordinator is going to be that, inhibiting as far as if he wanted to get another job or they were going to try to get rid of him.
Right, yeah. Being a Texas legend, obviously the star at Tech and a high school star as well. Hey, thanks for your time, man. Good luck chasing down everything. I know you'll be right on top of it. Hopefully have you down the road a little bit as well. Thanks for your time on a busy day, Ryan.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
Ryan Abraham, USCfootball.com.